pitch-black nights on the Long Tao. The surface of the river itself was indistinguishable from the motionless curtain of sodden night air and the black line of steaming vegetation on the near banks. Near banks, hell, Sherman thought. The Long Tao was only 100 yards wide here, just below the S-turn. The scale of the radar screen reproached him. He had it on the 200-yard scale, much too close to the bank. Ambush City. He squirmed in the driver's chair of the 60-foot-long gunboat, his khaki trousers sticking to the seat. He had to sit almost sideways to keep his head hunched over the hood that shielded the amber radar screen to his right. His left hand rested loosely on the engine start buttons. He could hear and feel the subtle movements of the rest of the swift boat's crew through the thin aluminum superstructure. Above the pilot house, just behind his head, he sensed gunner's mate second, Kelly, shifting around in the cage of the twin 50 machine gun mount, training the heavy black barrels in a gentle, sweeping motion from side to side, the roller path of the cage so heavily greased that it made little sucking sounds when the guns moved. Back down behind him in the cabin, Radioman Second Riker would be kneeling on the starboard side bench seat, hunched over an M60 machine gun stuck through the little window, his headset wires stretching over to the HF radio set. Gunner Jarrett, desperate for a cigarette, would have the port side covered with an M16 set on full auto, a backup magazine taped to the bottom of the service clip. Engineman First Keene would be on one of the bunks down in the tiny, stuffy cabin beneath the pilot house. As the off-duty driver, Keene technically was supposed to be sleeping, but more likely he was fully awake, sweating in his combat gear and cradling his beloved, captured Kalashnikov. Back on the fantail, Bosun Second Yankley would be sitting on an upended mortar crate, pointing the Hotchkiss gun to starboard, a full-pack white phosphorus round loaded in its 81mm mortar tube and a prodigious chew stuck in the side of his mouth. Sherman grinned in the darkness. With the turret-like, armor-plated jacket and a steel helmet big enough to accommodate both his sound-powered phones and his large, many-chinned, round head, the bosun would look like a big, armor-plated toad back there on his ammo crate. But with that mortar, Yank was the man. He could hit a palm tree at 1,000 yards, as a few Victor Charlies had learned just before they went to see baby Jesus in a cloud of superheated white phosphorus. Or maybe over here it was baby Buddha. Sherman took a deep breath and let it out quietly. The stinking, wet air gave his lungs little satisfaction, and there was a persistent, metallic taste on his tongue. He screwed his ears on even harder, trying to sift out any human sounds coming through the pilot-house doors on either side from the nearby reed beds and palmetto grass. With the engine shut down, they were unable to maneuver, and they had drifted in much closer to the shoreline than was wise. He could smell the banks of the river now that the ebb tide had begun in earnest, the muddy, earthy smell of an ancient swamp, threaded now with the stink of Agent Orange and the sewery effluvium coming down from Saigon some 20 miles upstream. Ordinarily, they would keep themselves precisely out in the middle of the river, but not tonight. They were drifting on purpose, fully darkened, all electronics running on the batteries, while they slipped downstream at the whim of the Mekong tidal currents. Their mission tonight was a SEAL pickup. 3 nights ago, they had come roaring up the Long Tao through this same area, making lots of noise, lights on, the big 39 boat throwing up a powerful wake, which chased the monkeys off the banks and caused the smaller crocodiles to grunt in irritation and slither into the water. 1 mile above the S-turn, they had slowed to idle speed and then, when darkness fell, shut her down, going dark and quiet to begin the slow drift back toward the insertion point at the top of the S-turn. Tag could still conjure up an image of the SEAL sitting all the way at the back of the boat, perched on top of the mortar ammo locker in the familiar costume, an olive-green floppy hat and T-shirt, khaki swim trunks, flip-flops, and a knife strapped to one ankle. No guns, radios, flippers, masks, or anything else. And no talk. And no face. Just eyes. The man's facial features had been obscured by the floppy hat and heavy daubs of green and brown paint, but Tag remembered those eyes. Bright, dark, intense eyes looking right back at you. Tag and his crew had done 6 SEAL insertions in the Rungsat over the past year.